You're listening to Cosmic Cousins Soul-Centered Astrology. I am your host, Jeff Henshaw. Thanks for tuning in. Cosmic Cousins is dedicated to honoring the interconnectedness of our universal family through embodied health, self-discovery, and deeper learning. And it is here to bring you back into alignment with the cosmos. So thank you for being here as always. Hey, Cosmic Cousins. Welcome back to another week of the podcast. This is our special Pisces Full Moon podcast episode here right at the beginning of Virgo season 2023. So whenever you do decide to listen to this episode, if it's during the Pisces Full Moon portal, this is a great time for you to be connecting in with Pisces in your birth chart and also Pisces themes throughout the year of 2023. The full moon, we always get one full moon in each zodiac sign in a given year. So this is the time of the year for us to be contemplating and reflecting on the Pisces archetype that lives both within and also without. Virgo, we're in Virgo season, harvest time of year. I have been having a very Virgo season. Virgo is ruled by Mercury traditionally, and Mercury is currently retrograde in Virgo. So even just recording this podcast episode, there have been a lot of details that have come into play and also just a lot of happenings in the world around me, interruptions and movement and change and things added to the to-do list. So Virgo can bring us into this very detailed, mundane place of reality. Of course, Virgo has all of its soul offerings and soul gifts too, which we'll explore more on the next podcast episode for the Virgo new moon in 2 weeks. But for now, we're gifted this opportunity to balance Virgo out through Pisces. All signs evolve through their polar sign, and Virgo learns to evolve through Pisces. So to the Virgos out there, happy birthday to you. Happy solar return. This Pisces full moon is a heightened moment in Virgo season that offers us this time to let go of the need for things to be in order, for things to be on a schedule or to be perfect, and to wash away in the transpersonal, collective, mutable water fields of this beautiful Piscean archetype. So we're going to connect into many Pisces themes today. We have not one, not two, but 3 different guests on the podcast who are all part of my soul family. Pisces, as the collective water sign, very much is connected to our soul family. And actually, Adriana, who's on the podcast today, will allow us to touch in not only into the soul family, but also into interfamily dialogue, which is something else to be considering here on this lunation. So every time we gather, it's on a new or a full moon, and I always offer us 3 phrases for contemplation. And that is actually our first word, is I contemplate. They're going to be action words, verb words, for us to fill the blank in. So you might use these 3 phrases as a launching pad for deeper exploration within the self, whether through journaling or through conversation with others. Also, you could use them as inspiration for a 3-card tarot spread, which many of you do, and if you do pull 3 cards, you can always post those on Instagram and tag me in them at cosmic.cousins, and I'll take a look at them, might share some insights if I'm feeling inspired, or just like to stay connected with you all. So if you do pull cards, let me know. The phrases I have for us for this Pisces full moon are I contemplate, I surrender, I release. I contemplate, I surrender, I release. The tarot cards that are associated with Pisces, the soul growth card, which is what I like to refer to the card that is traditionally associated with the zodiac sign, is the moon. Each zodiac sign has a major arcana card. The moon is Pisces, card number 18. The hanged one, or the hanged man, is Neptune, which is Pisces' modern ruling planet. If you want to work with traditional rulership, Pisces is traditionally ruled by Jupiter, which is the Wheel of Fortune. And from an esoteric perspective, Pisces is ruled by Pluto, which is connected to Judgment, or the Awakening card in the tarot, number 20. So those are some cards you might get out, and you also might want to get your Page of Cups out, because we're going to reflect on the Page of Cups today during our time together. So Pisces, cycles of evolution. It's the final sign of the zodiac wheel, so it does represent release, closure, the end of cycles. It is a sign, transpersonal water, that is connected to evolution, to spiritual expansion. And there's sometimes this overlaying or overlapping quality that I'll feel with Pisces. So overlapping cycles of evolution. This Pisces full moon is a super moon, and it arrives with profound opportunities for both healing and release. And so as the transpersonal water sign, we are expanding out with a wide contemplative perspective. Pisces gives us this buoyancy to contemplate and reflect on the bigger spiritual themes that are taking place in our life. So you might find under this lunation, and even if you aren't listening to this episode on the Pisces full moon and you just find yourself here wanting to learn more about Pisces, just by even tapping in and tuning into Pisces, it does open us up to this archetype. And so insights and connections may flood through when we're working with Pisces. There can be a newfound awareness of karmic patterns. This is if we're gifting ourselves this opportunity to expand out. Pisces can also go into the depth of the ocean and be completely blinded by karmic patternings, can get pulled into them. But what we're hoping to work with this energy is to expand our consciousness. And so we're expanding our consciousness to incorporate a newfound awareness of our soul's purpose for incarnation, our soul's purpose for evolution, our soul's purpose here on this planet at this time. And so a newfound awareness of karmic patterns is available to us when we're working with Pisces, and it holds the potential to resolve through some sort of emotional closure, karmic closure, forgiveness, compassion, release. So on this full moon, fated relationships that are no longer supporting us can release. And when I say relationships, this is, could be a relationship to a substance. It could be a relationship to an offering, to another person. Either way, it doesn't mean that it has to happen on this full moon. But if you've had any relationships close out in this year, in 2023, this is an opportunity for you to reflect on them. This could be you lovingly connecting into people in your life who may have passed away in this last year. So we're calling to mind anyone who has passed away from this earthly realm in this past year since the previous Pisces full moon. Any relationships that have come to an end or a close, we release them. While also we open ourselves up to soulful relationships. Soulful relationships reunite in Pisces. So particular to this lunation, this is the first full moon in the sign of Pisces since Saturn entered Pisces back in March of this year, 2023. So Saturn entered Pisces in March of 2023. So there was a shift at that time towards maturation, responsibility, soul growth, slow growth in the sign of Pisces. So this full moon offers an opportunity for us to really reflect on what Saturn and Pisces is here to teach us over this 3-year time period, March of 2023 until February of 2026. So whatever placements you have in Pisces, and particularly those placements that are in the first decan of Pisces, which is the first 10 degrees of Pisces, are really moving through this initiation portal. Again, Saturn is connected to karma, maturation, responsibility, adulthood, connected to the health of the body, and to slow growth. So for those of you that are moving through your Saturn return, this is usually around age 28 to 30, and then again around age 56 to 60. And then if you're lucky enough to make it to the third Saturn return, this is around age 88 to 90, give or take. But for those that are moving through their Saturn return in Pisces, I would say pay particular attention to the messages and occurrences that happen on and around this full moon for you. For all of us, we're being asked these questions with Saturn and Pisces of what are the bigger spiritual themes unfolding in your life. Saturn is connected to things like solitude and aloneness, and Pisces is connected to the end of a cycle. So we're all, during this 3-year time period, moving through this wide, contemplative, slower, reflective lens of understanding time and the world that we live in. Saturn is also about commitment. So a question for us to reflect on here on this Pisces full moon, which, by the way, this full moon is at 7 degrees of Pisces in 25 minutes, if we want to get exact. And Saturn is currently retrograde in Pisces on this full moon at 3 degrees. So they're within 4 degrees of each other. So this full moon is conjunct Saturn and Pisces. And what I'm noticing in this moment, which I find quite interesting, is Saturn is at 3 degrees of Pisces and 33 minutes. Saturn is at 3 degrees of Pisces and 33 minutes. So we have this repeating number 3, which repeating numbers often connect us to angel numbers. So I would like to just look up, what does the angel number 333 mean? So threes, first I'm thinking of the Hermit in the tarot, which is 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9. And the Hermit is Virgo's soul growth card and is connected to the Moon card, which is Pisces card number 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. 333 equals 9, the Hermit and the Moon. So the Hermit moving through the Moon. Mindbodygreen.com, angel number 333. In numerology, the 3 represents self-expression, creativity, communication, optimism, and joy. When you see the number 333, it's a very powerful creative force that amplifies your thoughts, your words, your intentions, and your emotions. So when you're living in a high vibration, expressing yourself joyfully and positively in the world, we attract more happiness, abundance, and good fortune. So this feels like a message here for us. Saturn and Pisces is an opportunity for us to reflect on this question of how might I more lovingly commit to my creative, spiritual, and magical gifts. How might I more deeply commit to my magical, spiritual, and creative gifts? Saturn at 3 degrees and 33 minutes. So with this particular lunation being a supermoon, which means the moon is appearing larger in the sky, there also brings a sense of heightened awareness and also heightened emotions to this. Even dreams may feel a little bit heightened. Pisces is a sign very much connected to the dream world. So supermoon, super illumination, the duality of this archetype of Pisces, right? The fish may feel activated and awakened. So it's important to remember that Pisces is about the spectrum of human emotion. Infinite amount of emotions. Pisces feels all at once, this energy. So it's important to remember that Pisces can shower us with contradiction and contradicting emotions. So there could be experiences of both sorrow and transcendence. Shock waves of fear could join together with some sort of glimmer of hope and joy. So having practices that help you hold it and cradle it, having an outlet for this feels important. And when I woke up this morning from a dream, Mr. Rogers came to mind. Mr. Rogers was a Pisces sun with a Pisces moon. And, Mr. Rogers hosted a children's show and had different puppets. And these puppets popped into my mind as a way to help us navigate the vastness of this Pisces full moon. And each of Mr. Rogers' puppets represented a different facet of himself, which oftentimes when people are like, novelists or fantasy writers or writing a script for a movie, the different characters represent the different parts within the self, as within, so without. And so for Mr. Rogers, one puppet represented his fear and became the personification of his fear, while another puppet represented his pure joy and innocence. Another puppet might have represented his anger, and then another one his wisdom, and so forth and so on. And I want to even say he had like 12 different puppets, which there's 12 different zodiac signs, and Pisces is said to be all signs in one. So Mr. Rogers allowed the puppets to then act out and work out the full intensity of their emotions and also the emotion of the happenings in the world through dialogue, through conversation, through play and movement. So this is what came to me this morning when I woke up as ways for us to navigate this Pisces supermoon. So what contradicting emotions do you have within yourself? Perhaps you write out a list, which is a very Virgo thing to do. Perhaps you write out a list of the many different emotional aspects of yourself. How might you tap into your imagination and create different characters for the seemingly dispersed parts of yourself? I'm wondering if you could turn your different emotions into a character, what they might look like, or a caricature. So how might you allow the full intensity of your sadness to express itself, to wail in agony under the moonlight? How might you allow your inner wisdom to be personified? And what might your inner wisdom say to the parts of yourself that are sad or terrified beyond belief? So these are sort of things that we could be doing for Pisces. Pisces is connected to imagination, to creativity, and play, and all of these things are here for us as an ally on this Pisces full moon and throughout all of Virgo season. So if you find yourself overwhelmed by too many details or the need to have it all figured out, the need to work hard, which is all very Virgo, or perhaps you find yourself drowning in the Pisces feels, the fear of the unknown, come back to the practices and the creative outlets that you have that bring you a sense of magic, wonder, and belonging. And what you might find is that underneath it all, there's this powerful sense of compassion and forgiveness and peace that may be underneath the surface. And so I wanted to invite different people on this podcast episode. Pisces is the collective water sign, so I wanted to reach out to a few people in our collective, in our community, to have reflections from different perspectives on this Pisces archetype. And so our first guest on this week's episode is a dear friend of mine, Luke Simon, who is a Pisces Rising, and he reads a passage to us from their book, Venus Juice. They read from the last chapter in their book, which maybe Luke did this on purpose. Luke is also a practicing astrologer and just spiritual practitioner. And, the last chapter of any book, we could say, is Pisces. Pisces is the final sign. So let's tune into this message from Pisces Rising, Luke Simon, now.
What's up, cousins? It is Luke Simon. Happy Pisces Full Moon. I'm a Pisces Rising, so I think I would say about the archetype Pisces has to do with energy, expansiveness, the abyss, overwhelm, and the symbol of that I think we all know best is the ocean. The ocean, so inspiring for artists. Anyone who does art, I'm sure you have tried to paint or photograph or write a song about the ocean, be inspired by it. Such an inspiring place of richness of life, but also of death and the coming and going, the ebb and flow. So With that in mind, if you're feeling oceanic feelings on this full moon, calling that bigness in, holding it, I wanted to read something from some of my writing, my first book, Venus Juice, which feels old now. It's funny when you make things and you look back on them years later. Working on something new, but I wanted to go back to the last chapter of this book that I put out in 2021. So it's called Dark Ocean. And just to give you some insight, it's about when I lived in LA and when I worked at a juice shop. So that's why the book is called Venus Juice, when I tried to live in LA. Dark Ocean. At work, we pour the expired juices down the drain. It's hard at first, but after a while you forget how precious the juice is. I would do juice art, layering the heaviest ones first, mango, coconut, and blue spirulina. Then I'd do the bottles of strawberry almond. As it all swirled down the drain, it would marbleize and I would add dots of green juice and beet. That nightly release ritual, hundreds of dollars down the drain, taught me to not hold on. It had been a record-breaking hot day and the shop wasn't as cool as usual. The heat lingered into the night, and as I locked the door, hot wind blew in my face. Nobody likes hot wind. It's the worst combination in nature. Breezes used to be refreshing, but now the climate had harshened. I walked to the car, rolled down the one working window, and opened all the doors to release the built-up heat. Climate change was getting more real, I thought as I drove away. The planet has a fever and may be unlivable in our lifetime. I made a snap decision to drive to the coast to cool off. It turns out the crazy heat had given everyone the same idea. The Pacific Coast Highway was packed at 9 on a Tuesday night. It was 85 degrees even with the sea breeze. I'd gotten to know Malibu since I first came here with Ballet Surfer. Although it was haunted by heartbreak, it had also become a power spot that always offered me healing. On the beach, I passed a folding chair family reunion and a couple carrying their flip-flops as they walked on the shore. A little ways down, where I had some privacy, I left my shoes under a hazy street lamp and jogged to the water. It was so dark, I couldn't tell where the water stopped and the sky began. I got scared and second-guessed my urge to swim. An undertow could whisk me away forever. Mother Nature asserts her control. No matter how advanced we get at overcoming her, she always has the upper hand. I wanted to trust nature, to learn how to swim in the dark water. I walked thigh-deep into the chilly, bustling water. A wave crested and I dove under it, no time to hesitate. My body was shocked with cold, fear, and joy all at once. Something grabbed my ankle. Panic surged through me and I kicked my feet up, fearing there was a sea monster. Seaweed had gotten caught around my ankles. I tried to laugh it off, but my body was surging with terror. What else was underwater that I couldn't see? My heart beat hard. I hoped my body heat didn't attract sharks. I dove under another peaking wave, but it crashed right over me. Underwater, I had a slow-motion moment as I faced the abyss. This is it. I'm going to drown. I felt some peace, but also sadness. I had fantasized about checking out as an escape when life got too hard, and I had thought that the most poetic way to die would be to surrender to the sea. Who would find my white sneakers on the beach? My swim trunks would wash up with fang bites in them. Then I popped back up, smiling. I'm alive! I panted hard as my heartbeat slammed. I was shivering from the chilly water now, and my survival instinct kicked in. I didn't want to die yet. Wow, this was a new side, the primal desire to survive. I hadn't felt such a strong yes in a long time. My arms went into superhero mode, and I got rolled under a few more times on my way back to the shore. I laid on the sand, face up, spitting and sneezing salt water. At the juice shop, we sold $4 ocean shots you could drink, and I had just had the equivalent of 10 of them. I'd never been happier to be alive. Almost dying makes living feel triumphant. Happy full moon. Thank you for listening. Looking forward to connect with you all in the future and share more work with you, and looking forward to everything that's coming out of this community as we navigate all of the energies. Nice to feel the connection, the belonging. Take good care. Bye.
Thank you, Luke, for sharing that passage from your book, Venus Juice. We felt so many Piscean themes in there, the contradiction of emotions, thoughts on life and death, and surrendering to the pool of the ocean. I wanted to share with those of you who may be living in New York or just somewhere on the East Coast. Luke recently opened up a new healing studio in Kingston, New York, just 2 hours upstate from New York City, and the studio is called North Node, which is named after the North Node of Fate, which is a point in astrology that offers us insight into our soul's evolution in this lifetime. And so I've provided some links to Luke's Instagram and also to North Node, the studio space, the healing center space. I've offered some links to those, so maybe you'll check it out. And up next, this is kind of cool because Luke was talking about working at a juice shop, which drinking juice, being healthy, having vegetables is very Virgo. And then that image of pouring the juice down the drain and then finding oneself at the ocean after a hot shift and then swallowing ocean water and then coming back to this thought of selling ocean water shots for however much you're selling it for. Like the fluidity between this world that we live in and, Virgo's connected to our work and to our health, and then this juxtaposition of life and death and the ocean. I mean, it really spoke to this Virgo Pisces polarity. And the next person that we have on the podcast also embodies this because they are a Virgo sun with a Pisces moon. And in this moment, I'm being reminded that this person, Dean, who is a dear friend of mine as well, also worked at the same juice shop that Luke worked at. So there's sort of this kind of overlapping full circle moment for me here, because Dean also worked at this juice shop. So anyway, Dean Stahl is a friend of mine. And if you don't know Dean already, I'm excited to introduce you. Dean holds a MA in clinical psychology and is an affirmative soul therapist, which means they come through the lens of postmodern feminism, gender and trans affirming, and are multicultural and spiritual. And so Dean is going to share with us a sweet reflection on Pisces and its connection to the Page of Cups in the tarot. So let's tune into that now.
I'm recording this in the morning, so I have some morning voice, but I think that might be appropriate for Pisces reflections. So I recently drew a Page of Cups card, so I thought I'd do some reflection on the Page of Cups for the Pisces moon. And the card I pulled was from the This Might Hurt Tarot by Isabella Rotman. And the image is of a fish inside a little bag like you might get at a fair or at like a little fish store. And the person holding the fish is standing by the ocean and has a sense of wonder looking into the fish. It actually reminds me, this isn't about the card at all, but it reminds me of, I grew up in Milpitas, and it's kind of a pretty small town that connects some major highways in the Bay Area. And there was an aquarium. There was a fish store near the town center that my sister and I used to go to after school with friends. We would go. It was like a free place we could spend, like a half an hour in. And it was really dark. And in front, it had like a little makeshift river where you could buy like feeder fish or goldfish. The rest of the store was really dark and had all these different fish tanks with all these different fish in there. And we used to go and check out the fish. And it was like nice if it was hot out. It was nice to go in there. And it was amazing to wonder, like have this little access to a world that was nothing like our world. And I guess it makes me feel, I don't know, like that feels very Piscean to me. Like, I can't help but wonder about the fish in this little bag in the image of the Page of Cups. It makes me think that the fish is trapped. You know, the page is in front of the ocean and the fish is in a bag. And I don't know, maybe the page is releasing the fish back into the ocean, or maybe the page is bringing the fish home for a pet. But I don't usually get this feeling from this card, but I'm looking at it and I'm looking at this Myth Rider Waite too, at the fish inside the gold cup. But it does make me wonder, like, it makes me wonder if the fish is okay. And it also made me just think about those fish in that fish store. Like, it brought us such a sense of wonder. But I also wonder, you know, I don't really know how fish feel in a tank. I think I feel a sense of that with my Pisces moon. Like, I feel such a wonder and deep compassion. And I think sometimes there can be a feeling of, oh, is my wonder and deep compassion going to, you know, is there a boundary there? Do I have access to other worlds that maybe I'll get sucked into?
Thank you, Dean, for sharing your thoughts on the Page of Cups and its connection to Pisces. And just through the way that you tapped into that card through a sense of wonder and nostalgia and memory, it all connects us to Pisces. And I heard some other Pisces themes, which were the contemplations on entrapment and the connection to magical other worlds. All of it was so Piscean. So since Dean was looking at the image from the This Might Hurt tarot deck by Isabella Rotman, I just so happened to have this deck on hand. Actually, I'm currently staying in a friend's guest room that backs into a garden, and they work with the This Might Hurt tarot deck, and it just so happens I have the little guidebook here. So I want to read the message to us from the Page of Cups card in this little guidebook. Page of Cups, student of inspiration. And as I read this to you, perhaps you will tune in from a place of contemplating on this Pisces full moon. The Page of Cups has found a fish, and they are driven to keep and nurture it. The Page of Cups is a person who truly feels everything as it is happening, fully and without shame. The Page of Cups, they love and laugh easily. They emote. They never lost their sense of wonder, and they bring it everywhere with them. Pages represent beginnings, and in the realm of cups, beginnings are emotions before they have risen to full consciousness. I'm talking about dreams, inspiration, and strong but not totally understood intuition. The page is ready to take the Ace of Cups, but they don't quite know what to do with it yet. As an emotional being, the page lacks the experience of the Queen or King. If you are the Page of Cups, you are likely on an emotional path you don't quite understand yet. If the Page of Cups is a person in your life, you likely felt an instant and inexplicable connection with them. They may be a person who would benefit from your guidance and or protection. They are also probably an artist of some kind. They might not fully have their feet on the ground yet, but the Page of Cups is often a joy to be around. They have an infectiously open heart. They have an infectiously open heart. And so this may speak to some of your Pisces placements in your birth chart. I work with both the Page of Cups and the Queen of Cups for Pisces in the court cards. I think of pages and queens as being mutable energy. Thank you again, Dean, for sharing your reflections. Again, Dean is a clinical psychologist and is an affirmative soul therapist, and I've provided a link to their offerings in the show notes. Before we get into our final reflection, which is from my friend Adriana Marie Rizzolo, who has their Venus in Pisces, as a Taurus ruled by Venus in Pisces, I did just want to share a few updates, offer you some invitations, and read one of the reviews that was recently written for the podcast. So the updates with me, it's not necessarily updates, but it's just reminders. I do have one-on-one offerings as an astrologer, and it's one of the most rewarding parts of my work is connecting with you all, clients and students from around the world. And so if you would like to work with me, we will gather for one-on-one conversations over Zoom, video chat. If you're looking for greater support on your journey, then I would be honored to hold space for you in this way. I offer deep dive astrology readings. I offer deep dive tarot readings, and I also have 1 or 2 spots, I'll say, for a 12-week mentorship that will be over 3 months. That would start this autumn of 2023. And this may be the last time to work with me through mentorship for some time, because it feels as though 2024 may be a year where I put a pause on my mentorship offerings. Just for the time being, just to give myself some spaciousness to grow in new directions. So if you do feel as though you'd like to work with me one-on-one through a mentorship, you're feeling the call, you're feeling the Virgo season call to get back into some sort of structure or organization, then please email me at jeff@brooklynfools.com. So that's my updates. As far as invitation, the next episode for the Virgo new moon, which is going to be in 2 weeks, just as a reminder for us, this Pisces full moon is August 30th, 2023, and then the Virgo new moon is in 2 weeks on September 14th at 21 degrees and 59 minutes. So just 1 minute from 22 degrees of Virgo on September 14th. This is the 6-year anniversary episode. I released the podcast on a Virgo new moon, September 20th of 2017, while living on the big island of Hawaii, 5 miles from an active volcano. And I will be back in Hawaii for this podcast episode in 2 weeks. I head out to Hawaii in about a week and a half. And I'm returning it will be the first time I'm returning since I lived there. I'm returning to reconnect to my community that lives on the big island, and also to reconnect to Hawaii and to reflect and celebrate and honor the work that I've put out into the world over the last 6 years. It feels like a big, speaking of Pisces, culminating moment. So the Virgo new moon episode in 2 weeks. So the invitation that I'd like to put out there is, if you have a memory from the podcast, if you have a share about what the podcast might mean to you, if you have any questions for reflection of what the last 6 years has taught me as an astrologer and podcast host, any of these things, if you have any kind of share from your heart, any memory from the podcast that you love and speaks to you, you could send a voice memo in. I won't be able to play all of them, but if you'd like to send a voice memo in that would be considered for reflection and also to share with the Cosmic Cousins listeners, you can email it to me. Again, jeff@brooklynfools.com. There's a link in the show notes to my email. And in the subject line, put Virgo new moon reflection, and send me an MP3 of you talking, asking a question, sharing a memory, and perhaps I'll play it on the Virgo new moon episode. I would love to connect with you all in this way, and I thought it might be a cool way to celebrate and honor this podcast and the community that we've cultivated together through the interwebs. So that's my invitation for you. I'd also like to read a recent review. There was a pretty lengthy review that was written. Don't get too many reviews these days, so if you haven't written a review for the podcast, that could be a great way to celebrate the upcoming 6-year anniversary. But this is what The Blurred and Back wrote. The Blurred and Back. What a beautiful community. 5 stars. I started listening to Cosmic Cousins at the beginning of the pandemic, when I, like all of us, underwent a major transition and felt directionless and scared. It was also the start of my Saturn Return. Shout out to Saturn and Aquarius. Whoop whoop. Jeff has the wonderful Aquarius talent of bringing strangers together over the airwaves and makes it feel like we've known each other for years. What I appreciate the most about this podcast are the diverse guests. They hail from all over the world and offer their gifts in the form of music, poems, magic, philosophy, or teachings. Because of them, my knowledge and relationship with astrology has deepened on a somatic and spiritual level. I love feeling this close to strangers. Hey, cosmic cousins! I love feeling this close to strangers. Since I began listening, I plan to book a reading for my 32nd birthday in October to process my birth chart and this whole Saturn return journey. I'm so excited that it's finally close. Fingers crossed that Jeff still has spots available. With gratitude, rainbow emoji, sparkle emoji, sunflower emoji, and new moon face emoji. Thank you so much, the blurred in the back, for leaving this 5-star review and for sharing your reflections and your thoughts. I hope to connect with you over a birth chart reading this October. And if you don't find any availability on my website, you can send me an email and I'll make sure we set something up for you. So again, thank you to all of those that tune in. You know, Pisces energy it's a collective water sign. Aquarius, they were talking about Aquarius in the write-up just now. Their Saturn is in Aquarius and had their Saturn return in Aquarius. And, you know, Aquarius is collective air, which is the airwaves. When we look at the glyph for Aquarius, it's 2 energy waves. So even now, as I record this podcast, I can actually see my voice in airwaves on the screen. This is Aquarian. It's sharing thoughts, air, with the collective. Pisces is sharing emotions with the collective, water, or not speaking at all, just being together through music, through poetry, which is something that I love doing on this podcast. And the next guest that we have on is a soul sibling of mine who is going to share a song with us. And actually, you know what I'm thinking right now? Luke and Dean both shared about the ocean. Luke talked about being in the ocean and being taken by the ocean, swallowing salt water. And then Dean talked about the Page of Cups standing in front of the ocean with a bag with a fish in it. Adriana also brings the ocean into the dialogue and sings us a song at the end of our time together that connects us to the ocean. And Adriana, many of you know because we've done collaborations together. Adriana, again, is a Taurus ruled by Venus and Pisces. And Adriana started this amazing teacher facilitation body temple. So their work comes through a somatic approach. They're very much connected to the body, mind, spirit connection. And so I'm being reminded in this moment for us to bring it back to the body as we tune into Adriana's reflection and share. Adriana's going to share with us their reflections on the esoteric phrase for Pisces, which in my own practice, I upgraded the portion of the phrase father's home to cosmic home because I wanted it to be more gender inclusive and more expansive for our own spiritual imagination. So I upgraded the phrase father's home to cosmic home. So the traditional phrase, the esoteric phrase for Pisces, and again, each zodiac sign has an esoteric phrase that was channeled and written by Alice Bailey. The traditional esoteric phrase is, I leave my father's home, and turning back, I save. I have since upgraded it to, I leave my cosmic home, and turning back, I save. I actually think both phrases offer a lot of insight and medicine. And Adriana is going to talk about both of these phrases and their relationship to soul family and to Pisces healing. But again, since Adriana works with the body, I work with the body. Let's connect to Pisces body parts before tuning into Adriana's reflection. Pisces is connected to the feet. One of my favorite rituals to do during a Pisces full moon or a new moon is to maybe get a pedicure, maybe walk barefoot, massage my feet or massage a lover's feet. So connect to the feet on this Pisces full moon and also the water and the body. Pisces rules over all of the water in the body. So what would it feel like for you to take a deep, nourishing breath into the water in the body? Again, we can connect to the 3 phrases we have for this Pisces full moon. I contemplate, breathe that into the water in the body. As you exhale, I surrender and I release. I contemplate, I surrender, and I release, tuning into the feet, into the water, and the body as we listen to this reflection by Adriana.
Well, hello there, Cosmic Cousins Familia. I am Adriana Marie Rizolo, also known as Art of Loving for many years on IG. I am a very good friend of Jeff's, and many of you know that because you've taken classes with us. Jeff and I teach together. Jeff and I have been friends for a long time. We have a beautiful origin story meeting at a yoga studio back in Brooklyn, and we traveled cross country. We hiked to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Like, that's some like Virgo shit, I feel like. We went, I guess it's kind of Capricornian, but we went up and down that Grand Canyon in like 2 days. It was totally insane. I got all the way to the bottom and I fell asleep for like 2 hours because I'm a Taurus. But today is a special day because we're celebrating a Pisces moon, and my Venus is in Pisces. And so I just have such an unending well of devotion to love that it's like so all-consuming at times and so torturous at times and so damn beautiful and transformational and healing. And my deepest purpose really is to love and to learn how to love and to continue learning how to love better. When I find the illumination is so full and bright in Pisces, and obviously this is happening in the midst of Virgo season, there's such a beautiful opportunity to retell the story of how we're parented and give ourselves the deep nourishment emotionally, maybe physically, definitely nourishment through food, right? And the ways that we're like tending to this temple that we carry that is our body. So the esoteric phrase, which many of you probably know, because I know a lot of you are astrologers out there, but the Alice Bailey esoteric phrase for Pisces is, in leaving my cosmic home, or my father's home, I turn and then save. In leaving my father's home, I turn and then save. And Jeff has this, Jeff says, in leaving my cosmic home, I turn and then save, which I love because the father's home, these phrases are from like, I don't remember when, but, the 60s or the 70s or, it's the language is different, right? So it's good for us to update and translate in new ways. And I, in particular, have a deep relationship to healing the stories of how I was not fathered, how I was not protected, how I was not held in an embrace that was safe from when I was young and becoming that. And so there's this kind of literal father, that we can have this relationship to that is, of course, complex. And, and for a lot of people, it's like we don't even have relationships to our fathers or, my father died a long time ago, right? So the relationship is still there. But when we approach, right, the cosmic home, right, the father in the sense of like the sun, right, the cosmic father, right, the sun is our father. It's this ever-present sustaining force of life. It is our life force, right? The sun that feeds the plants, that feeds the seeds that feed our bodies, right? Like we ingest the sun. And when we're doing nervous system regulation, when we're opening our hearts to deeper love, the shit that comes up that gets in the way of that is everything that needs that nourishment, everything that needs that light, everything that needs that protection, right? So in the cosmic home, right, we can, through our spiritual practice, through the stars, experience that cosmic home that is our soul, right? Our soul is love. It's who we are. So learning how to love is one thing as a human being, And at the same time, right, this is the paradox, it's also who we are. It's what we are, right? We're already free and we're on this path of spiritual evolution, right? And so Pisces and Pisces moon in her fullness, right? This great grandmother that is the moon in her fullness gives us a beautiful opportunity to sink our teeth into being deeply loved in our dreams, right? Pisces is like paying attention to your dreams, write them down before you go to bed, place a hand on your chest and set the intention to let your dreams nurture you, to let your dreams bring you a message, and then see what arises. Because the body speaks in image. The body speaks in emotion. The body speaks in sensation, right? So when you have anxiety, for example, when you place a hand there and you let your hand speak to that anxiousness, you're already allowing your experience of love to expand, even if your state doesn't change, right? It's all about acknowledgement. It's all about giving ourselves the love that maybe we didn't get when we were young, that the environment didn't foster for us. So, and then the rest of this phrase, right? So I can turn around and save. And right, we're not saving anyone but ourselves. But as we're doing that, we awaken to our purpose that is always about the collective. It's always about the other. It's never just about us. We're interconnected as human beings to everything in existence. Our souls can recognize that there's a soul in literally everything, right? This is the animism of aliveness. This is the ways that the Pisces process of death and rebirth, it's the end, right? And then it's the beginning all within itself. It's the end of love that carries us into the next layer of it, right? We cannot have love in the human form without loss. And it's difficult to navigate that process without a relationship to cosmic love, to this cosmic home that is our soul, right? We need to have this relationship to that which is already loved, that which is already whole, that which is already worthy, right? We don't have to work for love. We don't have to change who we are to get love, right? We have to keep recognizing it within ourselves and finding the courage to follow what we hear, the voice of the soul. And this is so much of what Pisces and in this Virgo time of becoming our own mother, becoming our own father, and at the same time, opening to surrender to this great cosmic love. That if you're listening to this, you have the privilege of awareness and you have the privilege to allow this expansive opening to love, to heal you, to ground you, to bring you the gifts that you need so you can keep stepping forward on your own journey. So I appreciate you receiving this Pisces moon transmission. The most authentic transmission I could give would be like if I could really be in a moment of just fully crying in my devotion for the goddess, crying in my devotion for life, because I've been given the opportunity to not miss out, to not wait till I'm on my deathbed to love. I, just like you, have been given this great sacred responsibility to love now, to love to love my life and exactly how it looks right now today. And I don't take that for granted. So if I could be the most vulnerable, like if I could, cry in this moment out as a child of this universe, I think that would be the most authentic transmission for this Pisces full moon, is to, feel myself as this child and feel myself in that relationship with greater and greater compassion, with greater care, with a greater spine, right, but at the back of my body, right, as the mother of my own life, as the mother of my reality, and as the father too. Okay. I have a song to sing with you. So you can start snapping your fingers. You got to do it with me if you can. If you're listening to this at work or something like that, you can snap your fingers. It's a good way to, clear some energy. Okay, so this song is a very, it's a very common song. It's been around for a long time. Song circles and women's circles and witch circles for a long time. So I'll sing it all the way through a few times and you could join me if you know it, or just listen to the first time and then join me for the second two. The river is flowing, flowing and growing. The river keeps flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. The river is flowing, flowing and growing. The river keeps flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. The river keeps flowing, flowing and growing. The river keeps flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea. Okay, friends, thank you for receiving this message, this love letter. And I hope to connect with you all soon. If you want to go deeper into your embodiment of love, I'm here for it in all the ways and in all the sensitivities and steeped in a lot of tradition. And I'm so fortunate and grateful to have so many good friends and teachers like Jeff and Luke, who you'll hear on this episode as well, who I've also known for a long time, and just soul family. If you're really calling it in, calling some prayers in, soul family is a beautiful, beautiful prayer for this moon to really nurture your soul family, both in the seen and the unseen realms, and to allow yourself to open to receiving their support. Because as we pray for the liberation of all beings, you, my friend, are included in that prayer.
As we pray for the liberation of all beings, you, my friend, are also included in that prayer. I love that quote from Adriana, and I loved listening back to that reflection again. It's so cool to get to learn from each other. And, you know, I've meditated on this esoteric phrase for Pisces for quite some time, but I haven't heard another person's reflection in a minute. And so actually what Adriana deepened my connection with in relationship to this phrase, I leave my cosmic home and turning back I save, is that the cosmic home is connected to our soul family. And of course, we are all cosmic cousins. We are all soul family, united through the love of astrology and the love of vocabulary that connects us to the unknown. And so leaving our cosmic home and turning back and being cosmic cousins, I'm now connecting to this Pisces phrase, the Pisces archetype, in a whole new way. And I do have Pisces in my chart. We all have Pisces somewhere in our chart. And so, again, this is a time for us to get to know it a little bit more. So, thank you, Adriana, for connecting us to music and to opening to cosmic love. I wrote this down when Adriana spoke, and I think it might be the title of this episode, which is Opening to Surrender to This Cosmic Love. Opening to surrender to this cosmic love. Maybe that will become a little mantra for yourself here on this Pisces full moon. Opening to surrender to this cosmic love. I'll say it 2 more times as a little spell for us. Opening to surrender to this cosmic love. opening to surrender to this cosmic love. Sending you all a lot of cosmic love here on this Pisces full moon. Again, as always, it's an honor to be here with you. Take sweet care, cousins, and remember, deep breaths.